To begin this sock, we're going to cast on all 56 stitches on the knitting loom. I like to put a stitch marker on my first peg. So go ahead and do that. We're going to begin with a slip knot. Place your slip knot on your first peg, the peg where you place the stitch marker. For the cast on, I am going to use the Ewrap cast on. The loom has the first foundation row. Now you are ready to begin the cuff for the sock. And for this, you are going to knit 2 pegs. Purl the next 2. Repeat that sequence. We're nearing the end of round 1. You will repeat round 1 18 times for the cuff of the sock. We have just completed the ribbing for the sock and we're ready to do the stitch pattern. The stitch pattern is a repeat of 4. We are going to begin by knitting 3, purling the 4th peg, repeat this sequence all the way around the knitting loom. That's the end. The second round, all you will need to do is knit to the end of the row. Simply knit all the way around. You will repeat these 2 rounds until the leg of the sock reaches the desired length. Over here we have completed the leg, and as you can see, the cuff ribbon is right at the beginning. We are ready to begin the heel for our sock. For this process, I am going to use a second stitch marker, and I am going to place it on peg 28. The second step that I would suggest for you to do is to put some masking tape around your knitting loom, marking from peg 1 to peg 28. This will facilitate the process of creating the heel. You will knit from peg 1 to peg 27. Wrap and turn on peg 28. Bring the working yarn to the front, lift the stitch off the peg, wrap the working yarn, place the stitch back, and now knit back to peg 2. Lift the loop on peg 1. You're going to wrap the peg, place the stitch back on. And now you will knit from peg 2 all the way to peg 26. We are done with the first part of the heel. The first 9 pegs are wrapped, the next 10 pegs are not wrapped, and the last 9 pegs are wrapped. We are approaching peg 20, the first peg with the wrap. You are going to knit peg 20, both the stitch and the wrap together. You are going to wrap and turn again on peg 21. So lift both the stitch and the wrap together, wrap the peg, and place back the stitch and the wrap on the peg. The peg now has 2 wraps and the stitch. Knit back to the first wrapped peg, which is peg 9. You're at peg 9, knit both the wrap and the stitch together. Lift both the stitch and the wrap on peg 8, wrap peg 8, and place back the stitch and the wrap on the peg. Knit back again to the opposite direction. Knit peg 21, lifting the wraps and the stitch together. Wrap peg 22. Knit back in the other direction. Peg 8. Pick up the wraps and the stitch. Peg 7. Wrap and turn. Lift the wraps and the stitch, wrap and turn on peg 23. knit peg 2 with the wraps and the stitch, wrap and turn peg 1. Our heel is done. The cup is down here. You will have wraps on peg 1 and peg 28. They will stay like that until you continue knitting in the round. For the next part of the sock, we are going to take off the masking tape as you won't need it anymore. We will be working on the first half of the knitting loom in stockinette stitch, and the other half will be done in the stitch pattern that we have already established on the leg. We'll knit the first round all the way around. The first peg, lift both the wraps, the stitch together, and continue knitting. You are reaching the peg that has the wraps. Simply knit the wraps together with the stitch. You just finished knitting the bottom of the foot. Now you're at the top. For this one is again maintaining the stitch pattern. So we're going to knit all the way to the end of the round. The second round, knit 27 pegs. You have knitted 27 pegs. Now you will purl 1. You're going to be balancing the stitches on the leg of the front of the leg. Now you will knit 3. So starting the stitch, repeat. Knit 3, purl 1. Repeat that process, knitting 3, purling 1. Continue until you reach the end of this round. We will repeat these 2 rounds until the foot measures approximately 2 inches less than the desired length. So if you want the foot to measure 9 inches, total, knit 7 more inches. We have just completed the foot of the sock. Here is our entire sock. You can see the ribbing, the leg, the heel. Now you will need to do the toe, which is exactly the same as you did the heel. So go ahead and view that part again to complete the toe. After that, I am going to demonstrate how to remove the stitches off the knitting loom, place them on 2 knitting needles to demonstrate the Kitchener bind off. And now we are ready to remove the stitches onto 2 double pointed end needles. I recommend a size 1 or 2. So the first step that you will do is remove the first 28 stitches and place them on one of the knitting needles. You will mount them on the knitting needle exactly as I am showing you on this video. have removed the first 28 stitches onto one knitting needle. You will repeat the same process with the other half of the stitches, the other 28. Place them on the second double pointed needle. We have removed the stitches onto the two double pointed needles, and we're ready to Kitchener the stitches close. The Kitchener produces an invisible seam, which is the one that is recommended whenever you're closing toes. So cut your working yarn so you have approximately 36 inches of length left. Pass a tapestry needle through. Now hold on to your two double pointed needles. On the front needle, first stitch, pass the tapestry needle through the side. Pass the entire thread through. Now you're going to go to the back needle and you're going to knit it, take it off as if to knit. So you're going to go from the inside and you're going to leave those two stitches on the needles. You're not removing them. This is the setup for the Kitchener stitch. Now you are going to go back to the front needle. From the inside, you're going to hook the first stitch and you're going to remove it, passing the working yarn through. And now you're going to go again to the front, but instead of going from this side, you're going to go from the other side. And leave that stitch on the front needle. Now you're moving to the back and you're going to go from the inside and removing it. Again, the back, knit, back to the front, knit it off, and back to the front again, but this time you leave it. To the back, removing it, to the back needle again, and this time you will leave it in there. Back to the front, you knit it off, and then you pass through the second one, which you don't take off, leave it on that needle. Then you move to the back needle and you purl it off. Then you knit the back one, the second one, and you leave it on. Basically, you're repeating the same instructions over with each stitch in the front, moving from the front needle to the back needle. We're approaching the end. Simply treat them the same as you did all the other stitches. Have removed all the stitches off the 2 knitting needles. This seam is right there. Some of your stitches are a little big, so you can go in and fix them, and you can do that with your tapestry needle. Simply go through every stitch and tug them gently, pulling out any slack and feeding it to the next stitch, pulling the slack off. We have pulled out slack. Now set the stitches by gently tugging on your sock. We are going to now tuck in the tail end. Simply stick your needle inside the sock. And now insert your other hand inside the sock and turn it inside out. Tugging on that tail end. And now you just need to weave in the end. And remember to weave in the end, simply go in a zigzag motion. The purpose of this is to simply hide the tail end. Was one side, now go the opposite way. Now go the opposite way, finalizing this sag. You can continue weaving it until you feel comfortable. And then clip the yarn closely to the sock. And your sock is completed.